Tonight, it's now official. 4 senior ministers and 7 decades of experience gone, sparking a major reshuffle for the Andrews government. A 79-year-old grandmother bashed in a cowardly attack. Travel turmoil as families are caught in the school holiday rush. Jordan De Goey's message to football fans.
I understand you need to show respect for women at all times.
Free fridges dumped on businesses in a taxpayer-funded giveaway fiasco. And a young Victorian cracks the NBA draft for a multi-million-dollar payday.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. Daniel Andrews is reshaping his front bench after the mass exit of 4 senior ministers. The Premier denies the departures are a sign of an unstable government, but the opposition says it's a revolt.
4 ministers walking away from politics, taking a combined 71 years of parliament experience with them. But the Premier says the resignations aren't a sign of an unstable government.
All of these things are opportunities, and renewal, fresh legs, as they say, a new team, fresh team, that's a good thing.
Deputy Premier James Merlino leaves to spend more time with family.
It was my dream to be Education Minister, and it has been a joy every single day.
His likely successor.
We will together make a recommendation to our colleagues at tomorrow morning's caucus meeting that Jacinta Allen be elected as the Deputy Premier.
Martin Pakula will hand over portfolios including major events. He admits he's fallen out of love with politics.
Sounds really basic, but I just don't want to be a politician anymore. You know, we've all got to make judgments about, when enough is enough. And for me, I've just decided that's enough for me.
Lisa Neville served as the first female police minister. She's publicly battled Crohn's disease and wants to focus on her health.
There's no doubt that stress contributes to making it worse, and I've had a number of surgeries, and the longer you go on, the more the inflammation impacts long term on your body.
Martin Foley hands over the health reins while the hospital system is in crisis.
This is more a revolt than renewal.
The 4 departures add to a list of 8 other MPs who've left the Andrews cabinet since 2018. Deputy Premier James Merlino denied he was leaving this week.
I'm the member for Monbulk, I'm the candidate for Monbulk, and I've got a lot of energy for the contest at the end of the year.
But I also know deep in my heart that I couldn't commit to another 4 years, and the seat of Monbulk will always be a marginal seat.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to make announcements for colleagues who, frankly, I think have earned the right to make their own announcements.
Until permanent positions are decided, Danny Pearson will focus on the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. Ben Carroll takes the Jobs portfolio, and Lily D'Ambrosio will take responsibility for the Department of Environment, Planning, Land and Water. Major permanent promotions go to Mary-Ann Thomas, who takes on the challenging role of Department of Health, while Corrections Minister Natalie Hutchins takes over Education and Training.
And Chanel Vella joins us now from Parliament House. Chanel, the new ministry will be sworn in by next Tuesday at the latest.
Well, that's right. There will be an emergency caucus meeting tomorrow morning. That's where the party will decide which MPs will get which portfolios. Once they have worked all of that out, including who will become the next Deputy Premier, there will be an official swearing-in process. We're told that will happen on Monday or Tuesday at Government House. Mitch.
Chanel Vella at State Parliament, thank you. A grandmother of 12 is living in fear after she was assaulted in a cowardly attack. 79-year-old Virginia Beckworth was left battered and bruised when she was punched in a random attack.
Bruised and emotional.
I just frightened at night time. I just wonder, he doesn't know where I live or anything like that, but I can still see him in my brain.
Virginia Beckworth never thought a trip to the shops would end in an unprovoked coward punch when she refused a thief's demands for money.
He got his fist like that and he swung around and he went, oh! It sent me flying around the back of the car onto the footpath.
The grandmother of 12 managed to get to her feet, but the thug wasn't done.
And he came back down again. He said, I'm going to give you another one-man king hit.
Ms Beckworth sought refuge inside a barber shop.
I just sobbed and sobbed and screamed, and this beautiful boy came, would have been in his early 20s, and he rang the police.
Straight away, me and two of my customers, we just tried to help her, and like she was screaming, crying.
The 79-year-old prides herself on her independence, often coming here to the shops on Walker Street. But the violent attack has left her so traumatised, she's now having reoccurring nightmares.
When I shut my eyes at night time, I can still see him in my face, and I really feared for my life.
A message to her attacker.
What would you do if someone turned around and did it to your mother? How would you feel? You were one of the lowest bit of scum on earth I think I've ever come across.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Families faced an airport crush today as they got a head start on school holidays. Blake Johnson is at Southern Cross Station this evening, and Blake, the exodus started early this morning.
And will continue well into the night, Peter. About a dozen V-Line buses here preparing to take people right around our state. At the airport today, 100,000 people flying into or out of Melbourne. For the airlines, a real test for an industry still trying to rediscover its rhythm. High fives for little ones, high patience needed for others.
I'm so stressed.
Herding the holiday cattle through the airport gates. 2.1 million expected during the next few weeks.
Anyone up to Adelaide? The Gold Coast?
The Qantas boss claims today went smoothly.
85% of the flights went on time.
But word on the ground's a little different.
I have just come from one of the poorest countries in the world, Madagascar, and their airport was better than this airport.
Virgin says passenger numbers are 15% higher than pre-COVID school holidays. Airlines warn we now need to arrive 2 hours before a domestic trip.
Came with an hour and a half, and it's saying that our check-in's closed already.
Not everyone's leaving the state. NAB customers alone have spent $11 million on Victorian ski fields the past 2 weeks. Mount Buller, the big winner, turnover up 250% on last year's disastrous season. Any queues for the ski lift are matched by queues out the airport doors.
Got a shortage of workers. The people that they've brought in to replace them don't have the experience, don't have the training.
In the past 3 months, Qantas and Jetstar have recruited 1,000 operational staff. And for the next 3 months, Qantas will reduce domestic capacity by 15%. That means fewer available seats and more expensive airfares.
We need to get airfares up because our oil bill, our fuel bill is $1.7 billion next year, higher than it was before COVID.
Almost all Qantas workers will receive one-off payments of $5,000 as the airline's recovery continues. And while announcing direct flights from Perth to Johannesburg and Jakarta, WA Premier Mark McGowan forgave Alan Joyce for comparing his state's COVID borders to North Korea.
I was sort of saying how Alan's glasses and hairstyle is very similar to Kim Jong-un. So you can see, it's all sweetness and light.
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
There's been another attack on a speed camera car, this time in Melbourne's southeast. The car was parked on a Beaumaris street when its back window was smashed just before 10 o'clock last night. The camera operator was able to drive away and the attacker hasn't been caught. It's the 5th attack on a traffic camera car in 2 months. Controversial Collingwood star Jordan De Goey has issued a public apology in the fallout over his mid-season break in Bali. The 26-year-old told fans he wants to make changes to the way he lives his life.
Far from the temptation of Bali's notorious nightlife, Jordan De Goey promises to do better.
You know, I'm not a perfect person. I don't think I ever will be, but hopefully I can make some changes so these mistakes don't happen again.
In a 1-minute 17-second interview conducted by the club, the 26-year-old said sorry.
I thought I'd just wait until I've got a clear mind to come out and apologise for my actions and my behaviours. I don't condone that behaviour at all, and I've got a lot of work moving forward.
He also apologised for his perceived mistreatment of women.
I do want to come out and say I definitely am sorry for that. I've got a lot of important women in my life.
The Collingwood star remains on personal leave. He won't play Sunday, and it's not clear when he'll return.
Has he been in a good space?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I try to keep in contact with him daily, and I did that yesterday. I didn't hear back from him.
The AFL boss provided his first reaction to De Goey's ADHD diagnosis.
It's important context, but it's not an excuse for what's going on.
That's not an excuse for my behaviour at all. I just wanted to let people know that I was dealing with some stuff on the side.
With Collingwood's initial contract offer off the table, De Goey's football future remains far from certain. Natalie Yannidis, 7 News.
The energy regulator has formally ended the suspension of the East Coast market. It follows the unprecedented move by the energy market operator to take control of the grid.
Regulator, operators, state and territory governments working very cooperatively with the Commonwealth managed to keep the lights on, no load shedding, no blackouts.
The federal government is confident there's enough electricity supply to keep the lights on. Thousands of free fridges are being dumped on Victorian businesses in a bungled green energy scheme. Installers claim lucrative carbon credits while taxpayers foot the bill, and business owners are left with appliances they don't need.
Troy Jones almost has more fridges than bottles of wine.
A couple of guys rocked up with a truck and some fridges and said, "Do you guys want to have these fridges?" And we thought it was a scam straight away.
The delivery men refused to take no for an answer, eventually giving Troy 9 fridges free of charge. Dozens more were left outside other Hillsville businesses.
We said we don't need any more, and then they just kept on coming back.
The fridges are part of the state government's energy efficiency program. Businesses can upgrade their fridge to save on power and reduce their carbon footprint. But registered installers are rorting the system, dumping fridges outside businesses to claim cash via the government scheme.
It's really behaviour that I think is outrageous and irresponsible.
The government gives installers a certificate for every tonne of carbon they save by replacing fridges. The average fridge would give them around 45 certificates. They can then sell those certificates to energy retailers for $64 each, earning more than $2,800 a fridge. But these fridges are sitting in boxes unopened and not reducing any carbon emissions. The Essential Services Commission is now investigating the fridge dumping and has promised to crack down on installers taking advantage of the energy efficiency scheme.
We will not register Victorian energy efficiency certificates for multiple installations of refrigerated cabinets while we investigate this matter.
Businesses that receive the fridges should report them to the Commission. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
A crane driver has been cleared over the death of a tradie on the Western Ring Road. It took a jury an hour to decide Matthew Eccles was not guilty of dangerous driving causing the death of Joseph Harin. The 34-year-old victim had stopped in the emergency lane to secure a loose load with his hazard lights on when Mr Eccles' truck hit him. Mr Eccles walked free from court after the jury decided it was a tragic accident. Protesters have crashed a rare public address by the Chinese ambassador as he spoke on the soured relationship with Australia. Beijing is calling for concrete action to mend the friendship following years of diplomatic tension.
Chinese Ambassador Xiao Shen accepts that not everyone agrees with him.
There are different views.
Views that were soon loud and clear.
1 million Muslims in concentration camps. Uyghur Muslims are being raped and tortured as we speak.
Anti-China activist Drew Pavlo delivering his message before it was destroyed.
Leave him alone, please, sir. Sir, leave him alone.
Suspended from the University of Queensland over protests that turned violent, Mr Pavlo was behind this attempt at disrupting Scott Morrison's election campaign.
I'm Kim Jong. Come on, it's pretty obvious.
Today, the Chinese ambassador forging ahead, saying Beijing saw Labor's victory as a possible circuit breaker.
Looking into the future, China-Australia relations enjoy great potential for cooperation and a bright prospects.
More interruption than cooperation today.
All lies, always tell lies. I am not terrorist, I am not separated.
Analysts are sceptical too.
This is for China a bit of a scoping exercise to see what might be different in Australia. They want to test this new government.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has welcomed moves towards more ministerial contact with Beijing, but says to really repair the relationship, China must drop its trade sanctions.
There's a long way to go. It will be a problematic relationship.
He heads to Spain this weekend for a NATO conference and Paris to meet President Emmanuel Macron on the possibility of adding a meeting with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv.
We're getting national security advice on that.
Mark Riley, 7 News.
A man has died in hospital 4 days after a break-in led to a violent confrontation at a takeaway shop in Geelong. Cassie Zervos is tracking developments, and Cassie, police are yet to lay charges against a neighbour allegedly turned vigilante.
Well, Mitch, police are yet to lay charges, and they tell me this is a very complicated investigation because they're now trying to work out whether the neighbour acted in self-defence. Sheldon Broderick died in hospital overnight after a brawl outside a Corio fish and chip shop on Monday morning. It's believed he was allegedly armed with a knife when he broke into the business. A neighbour heard the commotion and armed himself with a cricket bat. That neighbour allegedly hitting the burglar to his legs and upper body injuries that would later prove fatal. Police have interviewed the 31-year-old neighbour and have released him. At this stage, there's still no indication when or if charges will be laid. Mitch.
Cassie Zervos at Police Headquarters, thank you. Families won't be left out of pocket if their child becomes sick with COVID and can't attend daycare. The federal government is extending an emergency support measure for children who test positive to the virus. Centres will be able to waive gap fees for parents but still claim the government subsidy to cover costs. A young Victorian has cracked the basketball big time, becoming an instant millionaire in the process. Bendigo-born teenager Dyson Daniels was selected at pick 8 in the NBA draft, putting him on the path to global stardom.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Dyson Daniels from Bendigo, Australia.
With the eyes of America watching, a star was born. A silver suit and a megawatt smile to cap off this multi-million-dollar deal.
You sitting up here real cool, calm and collected.
To be a Pelican, man, there's no better place. So, yeah, I can't wait to get to work and, yeah, like, this is crazy for real.
Dyson Daniels, the spin, and one!
At just 19, Dyson Daniels secured himself a spot playing with basketball's elite, a boyhood dream come true. From his hometown of Bendigo to Canberra, where his training academy watched on.
Yeah!
Now Daniels, a 2-metre tall guard, will call New Orleans home.
I played AFL football growing up, so that's a contact sport, a physical sport, and I think that helps me on the basketball court with my physicality and just being able to read the game.
His moment in the spotlight shared with mum Brakita and dad Ricky, an ex-college basketball player.
He's always played team basketball. I don't expect that to change, and I know he'll give it 100%.
He's made the cut, but he'll have to work for his place on court, and Daniel's team is ready to get him straight back to training.
It's just the beginning, and he's got a lot of work to do, and he's the rook on the team, so he's got to earn his respect in the league and kind of put a footprint on the team.
To be in this position I am today, it's just a blessing for real.
In New York, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Back home now, and the Bulldogs must face a must-win clash tonight to keep in touch with the top 8. Tim Watson, it's an early start at Marvel Stadium.
It is, Mitch, a 7 p.m. first bounce for the Dogs and the Hawks. Coming up shortly, no margin for error for last year's grand finalists and their finals hopes. Plus exclusive details how a hand therapist has helped this young Hawk grab a monster new deal. Also, can a lethal injection sharpen the Magpies' focus as a star demon does his contract talks no harm? And one AFL captain hasn't ruled out a shock early return from injury. More on that soon. Mitch, I'll see you again.
Thanks very much, Tim. There's a historic change on South Bank as Crown Casino welcomes in a new era. We'll have the details next on 7 News. Also, what led to a violent souvlaki showdown in Fitzroy. The US delivers a new gun shock. A shark surprise at Williamstown. And later, dogs in the office, the new research on the role of pets at work. A man has been stabbed during a fight outside a Fitzroy souvlaki shop. Police say up to 4 men and a woman were arguing when the 27-year-old from Preston was attacked with a knife.
Stabs him, I'm not sure where, but I just know he was bleeding. Apparently there's a lot of blood in there.
The victim was taken to hospital. No one has been arrested. Today marks a new era for Crown Melbourne with a multi-billion-dollar takeover now complete. A private US equity firm now owns the casino giant and has pledged to rebuild after years of damage.
cashing in on its $8.9 billion takeover. Blackstone today becoming the new owner of Crown Resorts.
Can everyone look at front and centre?
It now owns the casinos in Sydney, Perth and Melbourne.
Blackstone is totally foreign-based, mega-rich, exploitative private equity firm. So I am really worried that the targeting will be Melburnians.
After years of scandals, including money laundering and links to criminal gangs, it's hoped this could be a fresh start for one of Victoria's biggest employers.
Their investment signals their confidence in our economy.
The union is confident the change won't impact the thousands of workers.
We know there'll be no immediate changes to jobs or operations, so from that perspective, our members should feel really secure.
Crown will no longer trade on the ASX, with shareholders getting $13.10 per share. Despite today's celebrations at Crown and its new owner inviting 7 News along for the milestone, the company would not allow anyone to speak on camera.
At least James Packer was an Australian with a public face, with a public board, and you could ask questions and put pressure on.
Today's acquisition set to deliver James Packer a $3.36 billion payday in exchange for his stake in the company. Sarah Jones, 7 News.
Overseas, there's a new twist in the battle over guns in the United States. The Supreme Court has made it easier for New Yorkers to carry a weapon.
A century-old law shot down, giving New Yorkers the right to carry weapons without a specific reason.
This decision isn't just reckless, it's reprehensible.
The state's Rifle and Pistol Association had argued the law was unconstitutional.
I think it's a bad decision. I think it's not reasoned accurately.
The 6-3 Supreme Court finding ruled the state's licensing regime violates the Constitution. It marks America's widest expansion of gun rights in a decade.
We cannot allow New York to become the Wild Wild West.
But just hours after the controversial New York ruling, breaking news from the Capitol. A years-long stalemate ending with 15 Republicans joining Democrats to pass a bill increasing background checks on buyers under 21, beefing up red flag laws and providing billions more dollars in mental health checks. Small steps in a country at war over gun rights.
The right of self-defense is the core of the Second Amendment right, and that's what this case in New York is about.
In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
Back home now, 2 sharks have been caught swimming around Williamstown Beach. The pair was spotted in shallow water after dark, exploring a popular swimming area. The Victorian Fishing Authority recommends to report any sightings to your local police station or surf lifesaving club. Jane Bunn joins us now. And Jane, what does the weekend look like?
Well, Mitch, Saturday is certainly the pick of the weekend if you like lots of sunshine. Today, the city peaked at 17. That makes it our second warmest day this month. That felt a bit nicer as the wind eased and the sun came out. It was wet early, though. Early this morning, a band of rain moving through. After dawn, there were showers passing through, contracting to the south this afternoon and still going now. Enjoy tomorrow as a change arrives on Sunday, and that'll begin another stretch of chilly weather. The full details on this after sport, Mitch.
Winter keeping us on our toes.
Indeed.
Thank you, Jane. A company has copped a huge fine over the tragic death of a young worker. Details are coming up next on 7 News. Also, the verdict on Richmond's Punt Road revamp. Why outdoor dining is set to become tougher in Yarra. And take a look at a mansion on the market for a cool $70 million. Outdoor dining areas set up in the city of Yarra during COVID will be forced to close by the end of the month. The council claims the Department of Transport won't support an extension to the road closures, leaving businesses fuming.
The pandemic is a long-term event. We're not going to recover from it in a few days. So it was a long-term investment for us.
The department says local roads are controlled by the council. A Cranbourne West company has been hit with a $600,000 fine over the tragic death of a young tradie. Dylan Wu died cleaning the inside of a tanker that was filling with toxic gas.
Just 10 days into his new job, Dylan Wu was killed. In October 2018, the apprentice welder was handballed the task of cleaning the inside of a road tanker. A gas main had been left on overnight, leaking into the confined space from a faulty valve on a welder. 20-year-old Dylan suffocated.
Dylan was unconscious and couldn't be revived or resuscitated at the time when we got him out of the tanker.
Workmate Matt Ryan says he'd previously raised concerns about safety breaches to management at Marshall Lethlean Industries' Cranbourne West factory.
It's like hitting your head against a brick wall, trying to tell them in the end. Your calls for the help and to fix things were, gone unchecked and unnoticed.
A representative of Marshall Lethlean was in court as the company was convicted and fined $600,000. 2 safety audits were conducted at the factory in the months prior to Dylan Wu's death, finding there were no safety or emergency systems in place to protect workers. The young apprentice was expected to clean the tanker unsupervised and without a gas detector.
I find the company took no steps to ensure against the risk of injury or death associated with a gas leak from defective welding equipment.
Simple steps that could have saved a young man's life.
He was very outgoing and very committed to his work. He was eager to learn and get stuck into the job and learn the trade.
Jade Vincent, 7 News.
Ukraine has been formally accepted as a candidate to join the European Union in a move hailed as a historic moment. Leaders from the 27-nation bloc gave unanimous approval during a meeting in Brussels, the first crucial step in a long process binding Ukraine more closely to the West. Another former Soviet state, Moldova, was granted the same approval. And an elite swimmer has been rescued after passing out and sinking to the bottom of the pool in the middle of her routine at the World Championships in Budapest. The artistic swimmer's quick-thinking coach dived in to save her. Anita Alvarez says she's ready now to get back in the pool. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have given the royal seal of approval for their first official portrait together, just as the royals face new controversy after Prince Charles criticised Boris Johnson's new asylum seeker policy.
One of the most photographed couples in the world. Captured on canvas, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge looking up at themselves. The portrait will hang in Cambridge's Fitzwilliam Museum for the public to admire. At a nearby hospice, these children met the real-life William and Kate. The Duke and Duchess spending the afternoon with children and their families. Kate lending a hand with some artwork. At the Commonwealth Leaders Summit in Rwanda, a rift between the Prince and the Prime Minister has overshadowed the event. Boris Johnson touching down in Kigali today with attention focused on his controversial policy to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. The future king reportedly calling the plan appalling, the Prime Minister ready to defend it.
A lot of people can see its obvious merits, and yeah, of course, if I'm seeing the Prince tomorrow, I'm of course going to make that point.
The palace has been swift to play down reports of a row, saying Prince Charles remains politically neutral, reiterating policy is a matter for the government. In London, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
The Richmond Football Club's finally received the green light for a $65 million upgrade of Punt Road Oval. The redevelopment will include a brand new Jack Dyer stand, an MCG-sized oval and underground car park. The ground will have a capacity of 8,000 people for AFLW and VFL matches. A Toorak mansion is set to smash records by becoming Victoria's most expensive home. Behind these gates is a property valued at up to $70 million. The St George's Road mansion is due to be listed for sale in the next few days. The previous record was $52 million, set by a mansion in neighbouring Malvern. Dogs could be a solution to enticing workers back to the city. The push to get more pets into the office is next on 7 News. Also, how a social media post led to a murder. The stock market finishes the week on a high note. And Melbourne power brokers sleep rough for a night. A man has been found guilty of murder over a fatal stabbing sparked by a social media insult. Marco Deng confronted Mechar Kot for calling him a snitch in an online post in June 2020. A fight broke out between the pair before Deng stabbed Mr Kot outside a city hotel. He'll learn how long he'll spend behind bars later this year. The share market has received a small boost today after a dire fortnight. Here's finance editor Gemma Acton with a check on the markets.
Thanks, Peter. Today's session caps off a much better week for Aussie shares. That's after last week's rout, the ASX 200 adding 50 points to close at 6,579. After a torrid time for tech and lithium shares, some salvation today for shareholders. The Aussie dollar, however, is still hovering around multi-week lows. It's now sitting just above 69 US cents. While iron ore prices have dropped again, that's on persistent concerns over global growth. And according to NAB, shoppers are becoming ever more mindful of their community. More than a third of those surveyed said they were keen to buy Australian-made and to also support local businesses. Peter.
Gemma Acton reporting. There's a new push to get more workers back to the office with help from our four-legged friends. Research reveals 3/4 of dog owners would spend more time in the office if they could bring their pets to work.
It was the favourite pet project in offices all over Melbourne for Take a Dog to Work Day.
Where's your ball? Where's your ball?
Furry and fluffy workmates unleashed, like Benny on duty in Brunswick today.
It just calms you down a little bit and gets you away from the stresses of work.
Occasionally taking them is becoming the norm as we return to offices. Between January and April, CBD office occupancy increased by more than 30%, but it's still just a third of pre-COVID levels.
As a result of the pandemic, it's a really big challenge for all of us in the city to earn the commute.
Today, it wasn't just dogs in offices. Teachers got on board at schools and dogs got on board with their bus driver owners. At Infinity Pilates in Balaclava, Flynn is a regular part of the team.
He's calming for me, keeps me centred.
According to a survey by Uber Pets, more than 3/4 of Melbourne dog owners would spend more time in the office if they could bring their dog, and 55% would be more likely to accept a job if the workplace was dog-friendly. Their positive effect on us is well known, but a day like today doesn't just help humans. Our best friends also love the company.
Well, he loves the attention. He already knows how to work them.
He's a different dog when you take him home. He's had a fulfilled day compared to staying at home and being alone.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
A good move indeed. Dozens of Melbourne power brokers swapped a warm bed for a cold night on the street. The Vinnie's CEO Sleep Out raises money to help the 116,000 homeless Australians.
Help raise awareness around the complex nature of homelessness and the fact that it can happen to anyone.
Funds raised will help build affordable housing. Returning to Tim Watson inside Marvel Stadium, and Tim, the Cats have a D's premiership star in their sights.
They do, Mitch. Chris Scott is pulling out all stops to lure another big fish to the cattery. We'll have the exclusive details next, plus more on a remarkable Bulldog recovery as we reveal a star Hawk's incredible left field training method. Also, how a lethal weapon can help the Magpies overcome a tumultuous week. The D skipper holding out hope of a shock return as his understudy rises to new heights. And not one, but two Aussies realise their NBA dreams.
Beautiful defence gets the...
Welcome back to Marvel Stadium. Geelong has launched a daring bid for an out-of-contract premiership team, and Chief Football reporter Tom Brown is with us. And Tom, there's plenty of interest for Angus Brayshaw.
Tim, I can reveal tonight that Angus Brayshaw clearly is the game's hottest restricted free agent. Had 29 touches again last night,
playing off the half-back flank. Now, we know that West Coast and Fremantle are coming hard. He's got links back to Western Australia through family. But another club, a Victorian club, Geelong, is also interested in a big way, I'm told today. Now, the Cats are famous for staying competitive. A destination club with the Surf Coast, Brayshaw could join other high-profile recruits in recent years. There's no sign at the moment of an imminent decision, but Geelong, I'm told through sources today, are very, very interested in making a big play for Angus Brayshaw. Tim, Jeff Kennett, meantime's planned presidency handover has hit a significant roadblock tonight. The Hawks for Change group issued this statement a short time ago, refusing at the moment to endorse proposed President Peter Nankivell. They're calling for fresh change off the field, saying Nankivell, a highly respected lawyer, but he's been a director at Hawthorn for 8 years, was involved in the governance failure associated with the $900,000 sacking of Alistair Clarkson. On field tonight, an early game tonight, Tim, here. On field, Bailey Smith was sort of out on the ground during the warm-up. He's suspended. He'll have a session tomorrow to get his fitness up. Cody Waitman playing despite his dislocated elbow. After fracturing his neck earlier in the year, there's a degree of doubt about Ben McAvoy's ability now to play this year.
Luckily, the joint is okay and stable, but his ability to be able to just work through the pain last week was amazing. From the front up this week, amazing again.
Introducing some skill work, so just some light skill work for him. So who knows, the next few weeks, try and build himself up and hopefully put his hand up by the end of the year.
And just finally, Tim, tonight I can report off-field the race for Gil McLachlan's job has ramped up significantly. I understand that interviews have tentatively started. Brendan Gale, the Richmond CEO, involved in that process, and I believe the AFL is casting its net a little bit wider than the 3 or 4 candidates already discussed publicly. That race for Gil McLachlan's job heating up already with interviews starting, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Craig McRae has called on 8 premierships worth of experience to help Collingwood overcome a week of off-field turmoil. The Magpies had a special guest at training today ahead of a crucial clash against the Giants on Sunday.
AFL royalty graced Collingwood training after the coach called in a favour from his former mentor.
He said openly he hadn't spoken in front of a group since he finished coaching. Probably nothing you haven't heard him say before, but when it comes from his mouth, it means a lot more.
Jordan De Goey has stolen the headlines this week, but with a spot in the 8 up for grabs, the Pies have their eyes on the prize.
We've trained as good as we have this year, so in terms of preparing to play, we're ready to play.
Midfielder Jack Crisp missed training for personal reasons this morning, but is still expected to face the Giants on Sunday, keeping his incredible streak of consecutive games alive. Carlton has ruled out making a play for De Goey as Jack Nunes prepares to play game 200 against Fremantle, a team he terrorised in the past.
I haven't had too many really big highlights in my career, so that's probably the one that stands out.
The Premiers are back on the winners list. Coach Simon Goodwin full of praise for his group after the club's culture was questioned.
Just to never take for granted the importance of the actions that help drive team performance, and you saw tonight the guys celebrate those things.
Ruckman Luke Jackson rose to the occasion in the absence of Max Form.
Yeah, I feel really comfortable in that role and around the ball, so it was a good experience.
The D's skipper, a slim chance to make a shock return next week.
They're all chances at the moment. I don't want to rule out any game. Adelaide would be almost like a break glass in case of emergency sort of setup.
Natalie Yanidis, 7 News.
A hand therapist has helped one of the AFL's rising key forwards produce a career-best season. Hawthorn's Mitch Lewis has put pen to paper on a mega new deal, and tonight 7 News can reveal the left field tactic behind his breakout year.
He's emerged as one of the game's most exciting spearheads, but even Mitch Lewis had his doubts.
At the start of the year, I was thinking to myself, gee, I hope I can get another contract. So to get 4 years and be a mainstay in the Hawks lineup is something I'm really proud of.
As his form soared, so too did the interest from rivals.
Lewis, a presence!
The 23-year-old telling clubs hunting a key forward like Collingwood and Essendon to look elsewhere. His sights set on becoming a big game Hawk.
I'm really comfortable with the ball in my hands, and in the big moments I want the ball in my hands as well, which is probably something that's changed over the last few years.
27 goals in 9 games thanks to a unique exercise.
Our hand therapist, Hando's got me some putty just to make the hands a little bit stronger, and I basically just leave it in my car, and if I'm stopped at the lights or just driving, I'll have in one hand, just like trying to get the grip strength, different exercises with the fingers.
Lewis back in after knee swelling. The Hawks turning to 4 new Hall of Fame inductees for a pre-match address.
That ends up being a tick for you.
Terry Wallace joined by Rodney Eade, Darren Pritchard and Andy Collins. Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
Glenn Maxwell hasn't faced a red ball since before the COVID pandemic, but he's in line for a remarkable test return after being added to the Aussie squad in Sri Lanka as cover for the injured Travis Head. Meanwhile, this dismissal on the opening day of the third test between England and New Zealand left everyone confused.
How has it got there? Gets his bat in the way, ricochets off to mid-off, and what an unlucky way to get out. Just incredible.
Kiwi Henry Nicholls was the unlucky man that had to go. Bendigo's Dyson Daniels wasn't the only Aussie to realise his NBA dream today. WA's Luke Travers was taken by Cleveland with pick 56. The second last pick of the night, the 20-year-old has impressed for the Perth Wildcats in the NBL. And Mitch, all is in readiness here. It should be a really cracking, fast start just after 7 tonight, straight up after the news.
Who do you like tonight, Tim?
The Bulldogs, but I think we're going to get a high-scoring contest, Mitch.
OK, thanks very much. Enjoy the evening. Jane is next with the forecast, and Jane, tomorrow's the pick of the weekend.
Rich, it is indeed in Melbourne as our next burst of showers arrives on Sunday. That marks the start of another long cold stretch. The details are next. Hello again. There was a band of rain early today, then showers followed with sunshine returning this afternoon. In that sunshine, it reached a top of 17 in the city, but now it has dropped down to 12.5. And here is a heads up. The current temperature may be as warm as it gets all next week. A band of rain crossed Victoria, weakening as it moved over the Mallee and East Gippsland and cleared the far north late this afternoon. While it was raining, the cloud was low and misty. Sunny breaks and showers followed that rain band. A long cold front delivered the rain, but there's no connection to tropical moisture as there's a broad ridge of high pressure that is here in the way, so it doesn't deliver much inland. That high makes the next cold front only cross Tasmania, but there is another, stronger one that is due on Sunday. So tomorrow we're back in a northwesterly airflow, so there's cloud and drizzle on the northern slopes of the ranges in through here and in the southwest. In this wind direction, Melbourne and the rest of the state actually look quite sunny. Wet weather increases again on Sunday. This brings a burst of wet weather to the south and just into the north before petering out. But this one has a burst of colder air, and that marks the beginning of another stretch of cold weather. Melbourne could be 13 degrees for at least 6 days running. After a dry break early next week, it turns wet again on Wednesday and Thursday. Dry to end the week, yes, but still chilly. Around the nation tomorrow, sunshine for Brisbane, Sydney and Perth. There's a bit of cloud at times in Canberra, but it does look dry. In Hobart, showery early and then again later. Adelaide is showery for much of the day. To Victoria, on the northern slopes of the ranges and the far southwest, expect grey skies with drizzly rain underneath. Everywhere else, though, it's a very different day with lots of sunshine. That's thanks to moderate to breezy west and northwesterly winds. Closer in, there should be cloud all around us, but those northwest winds block that from entering the Melbourne area. Instead, we should have lots of sunshine. A touch of drizzle could just reach Yarra Glen, but that is it. Enjoy your Saturday as there is lots of sunshine. It's dry, it's not even that windy, and it reaches a top of 16. That is our last 16 for quite a while as cold air moves through on Sunday, and that'll stick with us for another long stretch, just tops of 13s in our future. So on Sunday, showers develop during the morning, continue in the afternoon, easing off in the evening, 2 to 10 millimetres across town. 14 is before those hit. There's wintry hail in these ones. That ushers in that cold air, so on Monday, mainly eastern suburbs have the showers there. It is dry, sunny on Tuesday, but still 13. Showery Wednesday and Thursday. Dry again to finish the week, but we just can't warm up. So might certainly make the most of tomorrow. It's a top of 16. That should feel lovely thanks to lots of sunshine before we bunker down once again for another stretch of cold weather. That's here for the foreseeable future.
Better get used to 13, by the way.
Indeed.
Thanks, Jane. And that's the way it is this Friday, the 24th of June. Thanks for your company. Stay with us now as we take you straight to Marvel Stadium with the bounce coming up between the Bulldogs and the Hawks. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.